One major mistake that people make is confusing busyness with effectiveness. They think that, they're in constant motion, they're doing a bunch of shit, they're so-called working all day. They think that is the same thing as being effective, being efficient, being productive, and really, they're two completely different fucking things. What you need to do is fundamentally understand that activity does not equal productivity. What you need to do is make sure that you're not spending major amounts of time on minor things. Irrelevant shit, trivial tasks, stuff that makes no fucking impact on the results, stuff that has nothing to do with actually achieving the goals you've set for yourself. It's really important to make sure that you're prioritizing effectively, and you need to make sure that you're able to separate what's vital from what's irrelevant. Now, one of the most effective tools for doing this and thinking this way is what's called the 80-20 rule. This is a principle where you take all the tasks, all the activities you spend your time on, and you realize that 20% of these activities drive 80% of your results. You're way better off identifying these few critical tasks and spending as much of your fucking time as possible working on these critical few things versus spreading yourself thin, doing all this trivial shit that makes no impact on the actual results that you want to get for yourself. Playing on the computer, checking notifications, tweeting, checking your spam, tinkering with your website, all this stuff that you spend tons of time on, it contributes very little to the actual fucking results you're trying to get. And what you need to do is figure out what are those top tasks and spend as much of your time as possible on these few critical things. Dude, one of the major fucking things that people waste their time on where they think they're working, dude, they're checking notifications, they're checking analytics, they're checking email. They're doing this 50 times a day. They're running the dopamine circuit, and it's doing absolutely nothing to actually drive the results that they're trying to fucking get in their life. They're getting text messages, they're getting emails, they're getting notifications, they're getting tweets, they're getting everything but results by wasting their fucking time on this. It's a colossal waste of time. Look at the stats on how many hours per day the average person spends running the dopamine circuit, checking all these notifications, tweeting and texting and checking spam. Dude, it's multiple hours per day. People are checking dozens of times throughout the day, and they think they're working, checking their business email all the time, checking analytics on their fucking social medias. Dude, you don't need to check this shit anywhere near as much as you are. You could dial it back like 100x and get the same results. Don't waste your time on this shit. It's a huge time suck. It's a black hole, and they're specifically designed to pull you in and draw you in. Dude, they have experts and fucking engineers who study this shit and make it maximally addicting, so you waste as much of your fucking time as possible. Stay away from this. Turn off your notifications. Ty Lopez, he had a great quote on this, where he was like, I check Facebook when I want to check Facebook, not when Mark Zuckerberg wants me to check it. Dude, you can go into your app settings on your phone. You can block notifications from all these different things. Put your phone on silent. You can set it up so text messages don't pop up on your phone. You come in and check them at once in a big batch. Don't waste your time on this shit. It's an enormous time suck that most people just squander their fucking life on. Now, there's a lot of different techniques and methods you can use to actually train yourself to think in terms of effectiveness versus busyness and activity that contributes nothing to your results. One question I like to ask is, what would happen if I just stop doing this thing? What if I just completely fucking stop doing this? Like, you can break down a process, you can look at all the steps, you can look at all the activities you do in a certain area, and dude, sometimes you can just look at something and say, I could just not do it altogether and get the exact same results. And you can just eliminate steps this way. Sometimes maybe you have to do something. What if I could do it 10 times less? What if I could do it 100 times less? Dude, if we're talking checking like analytics and notifications and stuff on your business accounts or your personal brand, whatever it is, you could do that 100 times less, 1,000 times less than the average 50 fucking times a day most people do. You would get the same results. And dude, it's better to do it this way, if you think about it. Because you're coming in, you're looking at big picture patterns, you're looking at all the content, how does it perform over the last fucking month or whatever it is, big picture understandings of this type of thumbnail works good, this type of video crushes on here, this does well on TikTok, whatever it is. You're actually learning more by doing it less. So this is one area where taking less action actually improves your results and improves your effectiveness, which is the complete opposite of how you might think it would be. Something else you can do to really identify those top tasks that are most critical is stretch your thinking using extreme, ridiculous scenarios, hypotheticals, and questions that you brainstorm, and then come up with answers to these questions. Questions like, if I could only work 15 minutes per week in my business, what would I spend my time on? Just ridiculous questions where it's like, if there was a gun to my head and I had to 100x my results in like the next 2 months or whatever it is, just outrageous, outlandish scenarios like this, where you actually think about what you would do in those circumstances. That can sometimes break you out of those conventional thought patterns where you just do the same shit in the same stupid fucking ways. Stretching your thinking in this way can really help you to actually brainstorm answers and come up with creative solutions that you would otherwise never think of. Another great question to ask yourself, Brian Tracy, I learned this one from him. If I could only do one thing all day long in this area, what one thing would I do? Dude, if you're in sales, the one thing you would do is just make sales calls. You would just try to close sales. Then you can ask, if I could only do one more thing, what is the one other thing I would do? And then if I could only do a third thing, and I'm only limited to these 3 fucking things, it's the only thing I can do in this area, what are the 3 things I would do? What he argues is, in any area, any business, whatever the fuck it is, there are 3 things that determine 80 to 90% of your results. Everything else, it's irrelevant, it's trivial, it's a support task, whatever it is. Identify those top 3 tasks and just spend all your fucking time on that, and it's going to really help to improve your effectiveness. Like if you're trying to work out and get in shape, dude, if you could only do one thing, you already know what the answer is. You would just work out. You wouldn't check fitness blogs and count how many fucking pieces of broccoli you eaten and have a journal where you track your fucking macronutrients and all that shit. You wouldn't read 15 articles about the best fucking way to do a push-up. You would just work out every day if you could only do one fucking thing. Another question, I love this one. What do the most successful people in this space say that I should focus on? I fucking love this question because it's, dude, you can learn so much from just studying the top people. This, people call this modeling, where you find like the most successful people in the space. You study them, you look for patterns, you look at what they spend their time on, what they all have in common, what they all agree is most critical, and you just spend more of your time on that. I mean, isn't that fucking brilliant? Look at the people that have the results you want to get, the people who are most successful in the space, and just do the things that they all agree that you should do. Isn't that fucking genius? Like if you work in sales, dude, all the top salespeople say you should spend all your time prospecting, presenting, and closing. And if you had to do one more thing, you would ask for resales and referrals. That's it. That's what all of them say you should focus on. What do the top people on YouTube say you should focus on? One of the most important things, click-through rate. That's thumbnail, that's title, that's topic. Dude, I see all these fucking YouTube people, they spend all this time making these videos, and their thumbnail looks like a pile of fucking dog shit. It's like something you could have made in MS Paint after somebody woke you up from a drunken stupor and tied one hand behind your back. I mean, some of these thumbnails are trash. It's so critical. This is what Mr. Beast says you should focus on. All the people crushing on YouTube that get millions of views consistently. Dude, the one thing they have in common, their fucking thumbnails, their titles, their topics, out-fucking-standing. Outstanding. Their click-through rate is high. The algorithm, it pushes your content that way. Absolutely vital. And you have these people spending all this time on YouTube and they just totally fucking neglect that. Dude, whatever your field is, find these top people, listen to their advice, look for the patterns, look for the commonalities, and just do what they say you should do, and it's a great way to focus on what actually fucking counts. Another major pitfall people make, this might actually be one of the biggest wastes of time that people, dude, it's a rabbit hole people fall down and they don't even realize they're fucking tumbling down it. Prematurely optimizing. Prematurely optimizing, what this means is you're spending a bunch of time on projects, you're working on shit that, like, you don't even know if you should go down this fucking pathway to begin with. Like, what you need to do is focus on the big picture first before you focus on these small, trivial fucking details. Great example of this, if you're running a business and you're trying to do like some sort of e-commerce thing, dude, the amount of people that spend all this time trying to improve their fucking website, make it look pretty, make it look wonderful, they're learning 6 different coding languages and computer programming and software and shit, and fundamentally they haven't even like determined in the first place if the business model itself is viable. Do people want to buy the shit you're trying to sell? Dude, just months of time coding and hiring software engineers and shit to do all this crap on your website. You haven't even proven the fucking concept of the business. That's what you should spend your time on. Mark Randolph, he's one of the co-founders of Netflix. Dude, absolutely classic fucking story. One of the classic entrepreneurship stories. He talks about how when they started Netflix, dude, they would just run these ridiculous experiments at a rapid fucking pace, and they just kept accelerating the speed at which they would run experiments. Like most people, dude, they would spend multiple weeks putting up a landing page, making every word perfect. The website, it's gotta be just absolutely pristine. And then they run the test and it just bombs and nobody buys the shit anyway. What they realized was, dude, what we need to do is just maximize the speed of our testing, because that's how we fucking learn. So what they would do, dude, they got up to a pace of running multiple experiments per day. They would just set up these shitty landing pages where it just looked like dog shit. There were typos and everything. And they just didn't care because they were focused on the fundamentals. They were like, if our business offering is good enough and attractive to people, they're going to fucking buy anyway. It doesn't matter. We're going to spend all this time making a perfect landing page that nobody fucking buys from. It's an enormous time suck. It's a huge waste of fucking time. When really, in those early stages, what's most critical is just proving your fucking business concept. Grant Cardone, he had a great fucking quote on this, encapsulating this mindset about just rapidly testing ideas versus tinkering with a bunch of stupid shit, wasting your time for days and weeks. He had a great fucking quote where he said, idea, landing page. Dude, that's classic Grant Cardone right there. That guy's all about speed, rapidness, moving quickly. Dude, this guy talks about, like, he'll go into business meetings with people where he'll realize very quickly the person's jerking him around, wasting his time, not qualified to buy, they don't have any money, whatever the fuck it is. Dude, he'll enter and exit a meeting within 30 seconds. Most people, they would sit there and they would waste a fucking hour of their time and entertain the person. Dude, in, out. He realizes it's a waste of fucking time. He's out the door. He is not going to waste his time because he values it. Do you think that has something to do with why this guy's a fucking billionaire these days? Prematurely optimizing, it's one of the biggest fucking mistakes people make. It's one of the biggest mistakes I've personally made multiple times over in the past. What you have to do is focus on the big picture, critical shit first before you focus on all this trivial, irrelevant shit. Another great but simple question from Brian Tracy. What is the most valuable use of my time right now? Just ask yourself that question. You're working on something in a certain area, you're working on a project, working on your business, your career, whatever it is. What is the most valuable use of my time right now? Usually there's one fucking answer and you should just focus your time on that. And what you find, especially starting out, why am I wasting my time on this shit? It's not the most valuable use of my time. You know, people ask him sometimes, like, if I only work on this one thing, I'm not going to get this other stuff done. He's like, it doesn't matter if you're spending your time on the most valuable use. Another question I love, what would a complete moron spend his time on? If I was the dumbest fuck on the planet, how would I spend my time? How would I organize my day? What sort of activities would I engage in? You're like, hey, that's my daily schedule. That's my agenda for today. It's my to-do list. This is just like the inverse of that question, where instead of thinking like, what are the most critical things? Dude, what are the fucking dumbest things? What would a gigantic fucking moron do? How would he structure his day? And then just don't do that. Isn't that fucking brilliant? Here's another one. This one is fucking enormous. This one is huge for saving your time, wasting your time on stupid bullshit. Beware of tasks that expand in time spent like an accordion. Sometimes you're working on stuff and it's like, it's a simple like one-one relationship, like spend this unit of time and get this fucking result. Dude, there's other tasks where you can just spend more and more and more fucking time on it and it just expands like a fucking accordion. And you just waste tons of time on this shit and it really just doesn't even matter. Like textbook example of this, making YouTube videos, dude, spending all this time editing the videos, doing all this flashy shit, using Mogurts and advanced like graphic design things and like fucking Premiere Pro and Adobe After Effects, doing all this advanced shit and you're getting like the sound design just perfect and shit like that. How much of that really fucking matters for actually driving results? Maybe it depends on like the type of video you're doing. This is a huge fucking time suck where you can, dude, I've literally back in the past in like past YouTube channels and shit, there were some videos I would spend like a month plus working on the fucking video. Just outrageous amounts of time spent editing and getting everything perfect, and it would just flop and get like 1,000 views and then just fizzle out and go nowhere. Dude, it's textbook prematurely optimizing. It's just like Mark Randolph, you know, they want to run the experiments fast and learn what actually works before focusing on all this shit inside of here. Dude, another one that applies to really any area of life is just like indefinitely procrastinating by doing quote unquote research. If you're trying to like do some writing, write a book, work on a project, structure a YouTube video, present a business plan, whatever the fuck it is, doing endless amounts of research and you got to get everything just fucking perfect, endless amounts of prep and analysis, and I just got to keep studying, I just got to keep learning, I just got to keep figuring out exactly how I'm going to fucking do it perfectly. Dude, what you need to do is just take some fucking action and just learn from what happens. What you need to do is just, as Mark Randolph says, collide your idea with reality. I fucking love that quote so much. Collide your idea with reality. Everyone's just planning and it's like, it's very important to plan shit out, don't get me wrong, but you can just indefinitely spend your fucking time on this to the point where it becomes like a form of procrastination. So eventually you got to just act. You got to just test shit. You got to try shit out. You got to take action and just learn from the actual collision of your idea with reality. Something else that really helps with staying effective is imposing deadlines and forcing systems on yourself. Like with YouTube, for example, one thing I do, 3 videos per week. That's my target. That's my number to hit. And I just have to get it fucking done. That's one of my habits. It's one of my streaks. It's one of my KPIs I track. Having these numerical fucking targets to hit and just insisting on hitting them every single time and building up a streak of like how many days or weeks in a row you've done it. And having those clear KPIs can actually push you to just get the fucking job done versus endlessly delaying and procrastinating and tinkering and being a perfectionist and spending all this time getting all the details just fucking right. Holy shit, it's been a whole month and I've gotten no fucking results. Dude, setting these clear targets, it's a great way to just force yourself to get the fucking job done. Another great thinking tool to get you thinking 80-20, get you thinking effectiveness versus busyness, is to spend your time in proportion to the payoff of the activity. That's fucking huge. Like, look at a task and say, you know, if I were to 10x the amount of time I spend on this thing, would I get 10x the results from it? Or would I just 10x the amount of fucking time I wasted and threw into the fucking trash can? If I spent all my time doing only this thing all day long, like, would it get me results or would I just be wasting my fucking time? Allocating your time in proportion to the payoff of the task, absolutely huge. Another great, simple question to ask, how good of a job do I need to do on this step? Dude, sometimes it's something that's totally irrelevant. You can just half-ass it, and it really doesn't fucking matter. Like sending a shitty email, you don't need to spend 2 hours on that. You don't need to grammar check it. You don't need to spend 2 hours proofreading it. You don't need to send it to an English professor to get his opinion on it. You need to just type the fucking thing and move on with your life. It's a fucking email. Who cares? You know, like looking at the tasks that you're doing, looking at the steps in the process, saying like, this is critical, this really doesn't fucking matter. Being able to identify like where you need to spend your time, what really doesn't fucking matter, what you can half-ass or eliminate or do quickly, very important in just like looking at a process and just understanding like where do I need to spend my time to be most effective. Something else that helps with staying effective versus just doing a bunch of shit at once is just batching your tasks so that you can just get those efficiency gains from like focusing on one thing at a fucking time. A lot of people, they'll just like pick something up and drop it and start it again and go to this. They're bouncing around, they're moving, they're doing phone calls and emails, and it's just like a scattered fucking mishmash of activities. And really, dude, you're most productive when you just like pick something and you just focus 100% on it and you just get that fucking thing done. And if you're doing like a bunch of calls or a bunch of emails or a bunch of whatever the fuck, dude, you just do all of those at once in a big batch and you get huge productivity gains that way. Picking something up, dropping it, returning to it constantly, it's a fantastic way to waste your fucking time and just needlessly prolong the amount of time spent on something. So batching your tasks and just focusing on one thing at a fucking time, way better than having 20 browser tabs open, doing 30 things at once and getting 0 fucking results. Hope you found this helpful. If you found this valuable, share it with somebody who you think would like it. Post a fucking comment telling me how awesome my videos are. Hit that fucking like button, subscribe, check back for more videos.